The What's Neat This Week video podcast is supported by enthusiastic model railroaders just like you. Additional support is provided by Athearn Trains. Check out all their new monthly announcements at athearn.com. And by InterMountain Railway Company, where the detail makes the difference. Check out their website at intermountain-railway.com. Further support is provided by the NCE Corporation, the power of DCC. Visit their website at ncedcc.com. And thank you for supporting the What's Neat This Week podcast. This is the What's Neat This Week show number 113 for April 18th, 2020. Weather's still been great here. Everything's good. All the podcast guys are safe, and in fact, we will have them on a little bit later on in the show. My name is Ken Patterson, the host of the What's Neat show at Model Railroad Hobbyist Magazine, and tonight I am absolutely honored to have with us Jennifer E Kirk, all the way from England. It's amazing to have you, Jenny, on Skype. When I started this hobby in fourth grade, I could have never imagined being able to do something like this.
I know, it is amazing how much technology has brought not just to communication, but to the hobby as well. And I must admit, I'm loving at the moment how the modern electronic world is creeping into the hobby and making it so much better.
That is so true. For those of you that don't know Jenny, let me introduce her as a very popular YouTuber in England, and she's also been on that very popular TV show that they have over there about model railroading called the Great Model Railroad Challenge. And evidently, Jenny, you all have quite an active model railroading community over there in England, and I believe that our NMRA show is going to be there in 2 years. So
yeah, it is a huge hobby over here. And I suppose per capita, it's probably one of the biggest per capita hobbies in the UK. And so many people just love the creativeness that it allows. I mean, we tend to have very small houses over here. So people do tend to get very creative with how they fit as much as they can into as small a space as possible. And I think that that's one of the reasons that the hobby provides so much enjoyment in the UK.
Do you all have basements there?
Basements are very unusual. They do exist, but most homes don't have them. It tends to be, if you have a dedicated room, it tends to be like what I've got here, where I've converted the roof space of my house to a model railroad room.
So you're in your loft, or what we call here in the States an attic. Is that kind of what, do you call them attics over there too?
We call them both. They get called lofts, they get called attics, they get called roof spaces. But yes, this is the footprint of my house. I mean, I'm a little bit restricted because I've obviously got the gable end, which cuts into the space. But it's actually a really great room that I can kind of retreat into and just unwind and relax at the end of a day, just doing model making up here and just be completely cut off from all of the stresses of the outside world.
That's amazing. I don't know if you know it or not, but I am actually born in England. My mother and father, my father was in the military back in 1965 when I came along. And so I've got that wonderful dual citizenship is what they call it. But I don't know much about the home country. I've never been back. And I may come for the NMRA show in 2 years. I actually would look forward to that. That would be quite an interesting excursion to bring the equipment and do some interviews over there in your neck of the woods. But you definitely have a passion for trains. I can tell that by watching all of your videos and what you do. Elaborate a little bit about how and when, and tell me about your passion for this great hobby.
I think it's basically my father is at the fault for this. When I was very, very young, I'm the middle of three daughters, and my father had this innate interest in trains. He'd had a childhood train set, which had obviously, the route of so many people, it gets put away in the loft when they go away to university, go on out into the world, get a family. And I think he was looking for an excuse to be able to bring that back out of retirement and to play trains again. And the only way he could do that would be get one of either myself or my sisters interested. And it was me who took the bait. And I was just fascinated by this small world that you could kind of bully into shape and make things do what you wanted and feed the imagination. And it created this really great bond between me and my father. And I can remember getting taken by him out to preserved railways, to museums, and just sharing this passion for all things model railway.
That is so cool. Now tell me about this great Model Railroad Challenge show. That is something I would love to see mainstream in this country. It would definitely light a fire under the hobby and introduce it to so many people that are kind of actually unaware that us model railroaders even exist. But it is still a big industry in this country. There are a lot of manufacturers in this country that make things, as there are there. We've got Bachmann US here. You've got Bachmann UK where you live. So it's rather international in reality. But tell us about that show. Tell us, and you were on that show too, weren't you?
Yes, I was. I was on season 2 of that show and actually did quite well, got all the way through to the final. And it was a great time doing it. But in terms of the hobby, I think what the show has done is it's brought the hobby out from some of the stereotypes that maybe people who don't have an understanding of the hobby have had of the hobbyists. And it's made people realize that actually it's such a creative discipline and it's so much fun and it's far more than just sitting with a train running in a circle around you. You know, there's all of this craftsmanship of making the miniature reality, making models work and do things, and just making this depth of interest. And with the show, what it allowed us to do was really push the envelope and make things that you might not necessarily look to have the confidence to do at home. So we were making models, like space age type models. We had a full model of a Saturn V inside a volcano lair in one model. Other people were doing things like they were knitting trees, making them out of wool, and getting this real Beatles Yellow Submarine vibe going on. Yet more people were doing things like steampunk, railways on Mars, this kind of wonderful Victorian steam in space kind of vibe. So it allowed you to do these really, really creative things, and that has really fired the imagination of the public.
That is so true. That's something that I don't personally actually focus on. I'm focused on prototype, trees, the run-by effect, measuring everything in a location and trying to get things to look visually correct. But that's the other aspect of the hobby is, like you said, the Yellow Submarine. I've seen layouts where they have dinosaurs switching the switch yard. I mean, there is that total creative element that you can add to the hobby, which is great because when you're in the general public, that really broadens it and opens it up to a whole lot of different diversity and ideas on what people could really model.
Very much. And in some respects, it brings the hobby back to its roots, because I think we all remember being a small child and letting our imagination fill in the gaps. So we'd make tunnels out of piles of books or even the boxes that the items came in, and you would use your other toys out of the toy box to try and create this bigger, more vivid scene. So in some respects, letting yourself run wild and allowing your creativity to flow free takes you back to that kind of childhood innocence. And I think that's one of the things that really resonated with the public. And what we've seen from that, certainly in the UK, is that at model exhibitions, there's a lot more people coming through, but families coming through, because the kids have got interested, the parents have got interested, and it's been such a great shot in the arm for the hobby, because what we need more than anything else is this new generation getting interested in the hobby so that it can continue. And GMRC has done just that.
That's absolutely amazing. You took me back to my childhood. I will never forget, my first mountain was literally made out of an egg carton with white Elmer's glue and paper to cover that up. And that mountain was only 4 inches high. But as a 4th grader, I was so proud of that mountain after I put green sawdust over the top of it. I know that sounds ridiculous, but when you're that young, that is a milestone. That's an achievement. And they just pile on and they accumulate as you get older and you learn the finesse of working with various scenery products until you can actually make a tree that looks like a specific oak tree, or wire trees that look dead on accurate, or pine trees. It is just amazing. Thank you for taking me back to my childhood. Now, on the show, you do a lot of, I guess, product reviews, and you also share that beautiful layout that you've got with behind you there. Tell us about when you built that layout and give us a little background on that.
Well, this layout up here in the loft, it's the latest in an iteration of layouts that I've built over the years. And like you say, model building, it's almost like learning a musical instrument or learning to ride a bike. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And when I first came up here into this roof space, it was just this empty area. Nobody had ever done anything up here. And what I'd always really, really wanted to do was to build a hump marshalling yard. I don't know whether you guys, I presume you have hump marshalling yards as well in the US.
Yes, classification hump yards, correct.
Well, in the UK, they've kind of died out now, but certainly if you go back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even into the 80s, there was still a lot of these around. And what I really liked the idea of was essentially making the off-scene fiddle yard scenic by building a hump marshalling yard. So there's no real fiddle yard that you can see up here. The model goes all the way round and is scenic all the way round. There are storage sidings underneath, but this allows me to have a lot of stock out and to have a lot of flexibility with how I run trains. And I've really enjoyed building it. But I've gathered the nickname of kind of being the queen of speed modeling because I work so fast. And I guess it's born out of this inner impatience. It's like, I want to get it done and I want to get it done. But then when I get it done, I then faced with this kind of punishment that it's like, but I've run out of things to do. I want to do something new. So I built this entire layout, including the room that it's converted into, in I think about 8 months. And it was over the same space of time that we were recording Great Model Railway Challenge. And with that, we'd film for a week, and then there'd be 2 weeks off, and then we'd film for another week, and it would kind of go across the summer like that. So in the weeks that I was not on set, I'd come up here and kind of test out ideas that I wanted to bring to the show and, experiment, build up the scenery. So a lot of what you see up here is very closely intertwined with season 2 of GMRC, not just the things that I was building, that my team was building, but also looking at what some of the other teams were doing and thinking, I really like how they're doing that. I'm going to try that for myself. And I'm really pleased with how it's kind of come together up here as a result.
That's awesome. Hey, listen, tell those folks that do that show that I'd love to help them do one here in the United States. If they need any help, I'd be glad to pitch in and just lend my talents to whatever it is I could do to help them with that. Jennifer, there's one thing that I want to have to do real quick, and that is Athearn Trains has asked me to talk about this wonderful Western Pacific FP7 locomotive. I screen captured their website this afternoon, and this is a locomotive that was built by General Motors in 1949 and 1953. This is the FP7 locomotive with absolutely beautiful plating on this model. It's amazing the models that these manufacturers are making these days. This model comes with full LED lights and a Tsunami 2 sound system. Check it out at the Athearn website at athearntrains.com. So I assume everybody's safe over there, all your friends, everybody's sheltered in place. Is that right?
Yeah, most of the population's staying at home. I guess it's similar to what you guys have got as well. But it's a very surreal experience. I mean, I don't remember anything like this in my living memory. I'm in my 40s, and there's just been nothing quite like this. So at the moment outside, we've got really fabulous weather. It's bright sunshine, clear blue skies. All of the plants are coming into leaf. So you're seeing all the blossom coming out, the flowers coming out. And we can't go out and enjoy it. It is so surreal.
It's absolutely rather amazing. It's incredible. And like you said, my grandfather used to tell me about the pandemic that we had in the United States back in 1918. And I heard a lot of stories about that from him because he would always talk about that. But I'll tell you, a lot of my friends and all the folks that I know here in the United States are sheltered down. The model railroaders that I know are busy working on their layouts. And the industry in itself is still functioning because of the internet. Products are still able to be purchased. All the manufacturers that I'm aware of and that work with us on this show are supplying products. They're all working from their home via the internet. So I think it's the internet that has allowed our hobby to still continue, and the fact that so many people do have a passion. Because there's one thing I thought about this week, and that is, while we're all sheltered in place, there's that mind, and it keeps you from going crazy by having something very amazing to do to occupy your brain so that you don't constantly watch the TV or the news, which is what we have a lot of here in this country. And therefore, it's almost a benefit to be a model railroader or an artist in general, because you can perform your art and it pretty much just keeps you from losing your mind. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's very good for your mental health. I think having
Correct.
any creative hobby is, but certainly making models like these, there's so many different disciplines involved. And like you say, the internet and technology has made this experience so much more tolerable.
Right.
So you can buy things mail order. I mean, imagine if this had happened 20 years ago, and
Right.
we'd have all had our little Nokia phones and maybe dial-up internet if we were lucky. It would have been horrific, but luckily we can still gain access to the products that we need through mail order to be able to keep building the models, and also through things like live streams, through podcasts. I think the community, it's amazing to see how much the community's pulled together to keep people feeling like, they've got friends, they've got like-minded individuals that they can talk across the internet to keep the hobby alive, but also keep this sense of community alive, which I think is very important through all of this.
I absolutely agree. I'm absolutely honored and blessed to be able to create this show to help entertain our model railroad family out there. And there's a lot of great homage that is paid to us on YouTube readers' comments. People they say thank you. And it's a great situation to be in, and I'm very happy that we can provide this medium and share the hobby with all of our friends. Jennifer, I want to thank you so much for being on the What's Neat show. Please tell our viewers how they can watch your videos. What is your YouTube site?
I'm on YouTube as Jennifer E Kirk. The E is important, otherwise you get an American Olympic gold medal winning figure skater.
How about that?
But you'll know when you get the right one. And so you can watch through YouTube, but then I've also got a Facebook page. Again, do a search for Jennifer Kirk, and I post a lot of stuff up on there too.
You're awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show, and I want you to be safe and tell all of your friends that we in the United States say hello. We're all brothers and sisters, and we love you guys.
Thank you very much, and it's been an honor to be invited on. Thank you very much, Ken.
Okay, guys, and with that, we're going to continue the show now. We've got many more interviews to do, and I think we're going to bring in the entire podcast crew again so that everybody can share the projects that they've been working on. So now I've got the podcast crew, some of the guys with me. Everybody's doing fantastic, working on their layouts. Everything's as good as can be. I've got James Regier up here in the top corner. I see Mike Budde right below him.
Hey, what's up?
I got Chris Palomarez. I love you, Chris. And of course,
High five, Chris.
we've got Campbell Rice sitting in a dark studio. Hi, Campbell.
Hello.
We've got a lot of neat stuff to talk about tonight. The guys have been busy working on various projects that they're looking forward to sharing with you. I can say over the past couple of days, I have had discussions with many of my contacts, and the hobby is doing well. Brick and mortar stores that have an internet presence are doing well. Brick and mortar stores that are doing some curbside service are still in business. And the stay-at-home order is still on for the next foreseeable mid-May, it sounds like, from Missouri. And I've talked to Jim Scourse at NCE that sponsors us with these wonderful throttles that we love so much. His business is well. So everybody out there is supporting the best hobby in the world, and that's great. That's what we all need to do. This has always been a hobby that has survived depression. It was created during the Depression, if you think about it, in the 30s. And this hobby's always been resilient through difficult times, as we saw in 2006 and 7 when the stock market tanked and things got a little bit rough in this country. The hobby flourished overall. We were keeping our fingers crossed, and sure enough, we are now seeing the same thing happen during this pandemic, this COVID-19 pandemic that we are all sharing in together. So I'm really happy that everybody's working on their layouts and that our industry is strong. And that's the way it needs to be. We need to support our hobby to keep it healthy. Thank you all out there for doing just that. So guys, tell me, I want to start with who? How about Campbell? What have you been working on?
Oh, I've been in the basement again this week. I've been working on the train, got a lot done. My main thing right now is I'm having a supply issue. So, if you get used to being able to run out to the hobby shop and pick something up and come back and get it done. And now I'll get to a point where plump, everything kind of stops and I have to come up to the computer and I have to find what I'm looking for and order it. But thankfully, the hobby shops that are online are getting the products out real quick. And, I've been seeing 2-3 days delivery max on everything. So it's been working real good. You can see some of the pictures that here. This is me. I'm setting some trees on the layout on an area I just got through applying static grass to. I use a Woodland Scenics static grass applicator and static grass, and basically when I do it, I just put the Mod Podge down over the top of it, static grass it, and then I'll come back with a shop vac and make sure I lift the grass so that it does come up. And then I actually have some real dirt that I got from the yard, and I'm blending it and sprinkling in and combing it over the top of it just to kind of give it that realistic look.
It looks good.
Ordered a bunch of ballast, so I get to ballast, one of my favorite things to do.
It's a satisfying feeling when you get to the ballast stage, huh, Campbell?
Yeah, I see it everywhere. You can work on ballast for so long, 30 minutes max for me, and I got to move on to something else. But if I do it a little bit each day, it's not too bad. And then I have fun playing with my backdrop here. Basically, what that backdrop is, it's 4 pictures that are stitched together and printed on a printer, and I can plop that anywhere and shoot my picture of my trains, and with that in the background, it just gives it that depth. It makes it look like it's more than 2 feet deep.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm doing, and it looks like I've got a couple more weeks to be able to do some more. So everything's going well.
That's really cool. Joe Fugate over at Model Railroad Hobbyist Magazine asked me to do a video this week on ballast. And I'm using a product from England, from the UK. I believe it's called Deluxe. I'm trying to see it on my desk over there.
Oh, Deluxe Materials.
Is that what it is? Yeah. I got the wrong glasses on to even see that far.
Stuff.
It's amazing, Chris. It's a powder. And you mix the powder with your ballast, and all you have to do is wet it.
Just add water.
And it sets right up.
He has a lot of really cool products, Ken. He even has this thing called liquid gravity, where you can put it into, it's like these really fine BB looking things, so you can put it in irregular surfaces, and then he has a setting solution for it that will harden it up, and he has a lot of really cool stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's cool. What do you got going on, Chris?
I think people overseas are a little bit ahead of us on scenery.
Yeah, I think so.
I wonder if that's I've kind of wondered about that. Is that because passenger rail is a lot healthier over there? That you have a lot more people that have ridden on trains and experienced them and experienced the countryside, the views from trains, and so they just have more of a personal connection than we might hear.
I think there's a lot of military modelers in Europe too, and they're kind of ahead of us on scenery and weathering too. A lot of times.
I love Martin Welberg, and I used his stuff quite often. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's going on, Chris? What have you been working on? I know you guys are still working. Horizon is still in business, right?
Yeah, there's always something I'm doing. It's funny now because I feel like I'm busier now than when I was going into an office for 9 to 5. But it's just been a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of Skype calls, a lot of texting and email. And it's been great to be at home, though. I've been able to do some projects that I haven't been able to touch for the past few months. Coming into this year, it was like train show. And then I was actually able to sit down with a few things. And I was able to put some DCC into a cotton belt GP40-2 recently. And when I was doing it, mind you, this is my first time kind of using LEDs. Before, I've been like strictly incandescent 1.5 volt bulbs. So I was actually able to light up the big hole light on the nose of the locomotive. So I went ahead and did that. It was actually way easier than any bulb installation I've ever done in the past. So that was actually a lot of fun to try that out. I have some video that I'm rolling right now, kind of showing some of the effects that I got too, where I'm duplicating what's called an oscitrol light, where, you know, one light bulb or one headlight was at a different brilliance than the other, and there was like an effect that would kind of like
so
look like
sort of
a dripping sort of thing. And it was Southern Pacific's way to use electronics versus an actual mechanical device to kind of simulate a gyrolight at that time.
Right.
So I've been messing around with that, and what's really neat about that effect is that's the effect that's coming into the new Athearn GP40-2s that are going to be delivering in June. So look for that. It's going to be open a box, and you get that. You won't have to go through all the installation that I did for mine. So
but the installation is kind of fun.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Bringing that out.
For some, it's easier than others. I actually had a lot of fun with that too, James. It was great. And I also worked on a Santa Fe GP7U.
Oh,
So
nice.
you get some LEDs into that little thing, and I did a really weird installation with it. I used a TCS motherboard, which had built-on Keep Alive. I used a SoundTraxx TSU 1100, and the reason I went with 1100 was I just had room for a Sugar Cube speaker, a single one that was a 1 watt. So I needed the power rating of the amplifier to match the power rating of the speaker. Conventional Tsunami 2s are mostly 2 watt. So the smaller size format gave me the 1 watt. So I had to take the wires and manually wire it over to a 21 pin sort of adapter. And it was just total alchemy.
Yeah.
A little bit of this, a little bit of that, and I made a Frankenstein installation. I was actually able to get Keep Alive in this little thing, and, you know, all the functions, all the headlights to work, and then the speaker wasn't being overdriven either. So that was another fun installation that I just kind of, I'd say summer of last year, I kind of like petered out on. I had to get back to work and get ready for, you know, Train Fest, and it's been a whirlwind ever since. So
this little guy over here, in fact, has TCS and Keep Alive and all that stuff.
Yeah. I was able to use SoundTraxx, TCS, Scale Sound Systems, just like a little bit of everything.
Mess of them, yeah.
Now, James, you're working on a Trackmobile, aren't you?
Yeah. In fact, James Wright has contacted me, and he's wanting me to work on a Trackmobile that he's just gotten from Broadway Limited. This is a Union Pacific Trackmobile, and I'm supposed to put LED lights and sound in it. And I just have to figure out what options I have for it. The spacing, of course, in a Trackmobile is going to be incredibly small. I've seen that one of the speakers, or one of the cell phone speakers that I normally use in the Sugar Cubes that I make, should fit in it, but there's a lot that remains to be determined in it. James Wright was asking if someone wanted to try and do this, and I was like, I like the idea of the challenge. It'll be fun.
You're the man to do something like that. Mike, you've got some photographs that you want to share, but before you do, you guys can see on the table, because I've got the camera right set up where y'all can see this, we've got 6 InterMountain reefers on the table that they had sent us. These are the PFE reefers, class R3018 reefers, and I've also got some R3021s here, I believe. But it's very interesting in the fact, just like what Athearn does, they have so many different variations of this car, and they're specifically accurate to the history of the cars. These are wood refrigerator cars. They all have dreadnought ends on them with corner posts. So they've got the rounded exterior corners. And the reason I know all of this is because I pulled out my PFE Bible. That's this book that Chris is very familiar with, from Robert Church, Bruce Jones, and Anthony Thompson. It's a magnificent book if you can find this. It's got all of the information of these cars in it. And the first car that I want to talk about is the PFE car number 75648. And of course I photographed all of these cars so that you can see clearly them up front. This car comes with a horizontal stripe on it from the era of around 1941. It's an R30-12-18 class with a UP Herald on it, and it's got the fancy Overland Route on the Herald, and the Southern Pacific Line's Herald on the other side of the car. And it comes with wooden roof locks. It's a really neat car. The next one that we've got, and there are 6 here, is a PFE 61472 is the number of this. And this is a 30-1318 PFE class reefer. And it has wooden roof walks on top, but it's only got the single Union Pacific Herald on it in full color. And again, too, the single Southern Pacific Herald on the other side of the car. And so that would be the one right here. It's a really neat looking car that they did. The next one that I've got is a PFE with a double Herald on it. And this Herald is in black and white. And that was a cost-saving thing that they did. Actually, during World War II, they also did that. They painted them black and white just to save money and get them through quicker. This is car number 62043, and it also comes with wooden roof walks. It's amazing, these different variations. The next one is a R3018 class PFE with a double Herald on it. This is an absolute full color, wooden roof walks on top of it, and it is car number 61366. Now what's interesting is they've also created the variant, these cars that had fans in them. The first one is car number 65895, and it's a PFE class R30-21. And you can tell the characteristic of this from the photograph I'm showing you. It's a dark little circular spot you see, that is the fan. This is a single Herald Union Pacific reefer with a single UP Herald on one side, and again the Southern Pacific Herald on the other side of the car. It's one of the rebuilds, and they had about 2,400 of these cars by 1947. So it's amazing. And the last one that I've got is a PFE class R3021, car number 63857. Now this car and the one previously I just described with the fan on it, these come with metal roof walks because these were rebuilds that they had done. Double Herald Southern Pacific / Union Pacific on it, and this was something from around 1945 to 1947. It had mechanical fans made by Preco and Equip fans. And the characteristic, again, is this black circular spot that you see in the photograph of this car. Also in the top corner of the car, the left corner, it had 2-inch lettering describing ice staging, convertible ice bunkers, and circulating fans. You can see the fans right there. It's amazing. These things ran well into the 60s. And you can find all of these cars at www.intermountain-railway.com. And the fact is, Mike, they did run into the 60s. So I think these might be a little too early for your era.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
again,
they look good, though.
It's amazing to me that the manufacturers have done their homework the way that they have. And this is the same way that I described the Western Pacific engine just a little while ago when we had Jennifer Kirk on the show. This Western Pacific FP7 that is on the table, Chris, the plating on it is magnificent. I mean, it's what they used to do with brass models.
Yeah, well, like you coined it, plastic brass now.
Plastic brass. So thank you very much, InterMountain, for sending us these wonderful cars.
No, Ken, if I'm hearing you right, they not only have the painted on details, differences in the paint, but they actually have little added on prototype specific or car number specific details like the fans and stuff.
Absolutely.
That they've added extra moldings. Well, that's awesome.
It's absolutely, yeah. And even the car that I said was the one where they're trying to save money with the black and white images on the side of the car, the logos, even the stirrups weren't painted. They're orange. They're not painted black, so they didn't paint the bottom of the car.
Wow.
The horizontal stripe car, it's amazing. I mean, some of these cars, they were experimental as the progression of the PFE cars went along. And InterMountain has captured the detail, even on the specific ones where there maybe was only 15 of those cars manufactured in the real world. But it's amazing. So check it out. That's our education for the What's Neat this week's show. And it's really cool to be able to see these. I can't wait to see them run because they got metal wheels on them and Katy couplers. And when you got a string of 35 of these together, those couplers are important so they'll hold together tight.
It's amazing to me of all the detail, road-specific detail and car detail that all the manufacturers are coming up with now.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I started, you'd get a box car and it would be painted in 12 or 15 different road names. You know, it didn't matter if it was, accurate or not. But wow, it is really amazing how everybody stepped up their games.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, Ken, it's important to note, too, that PFE was not confined to California. It went nationwide. It went everywhere. It went to the East Coast of the New York markets. It went to the Chicago markets. It went down to Florida. It went everywhere. So even if you're not modeling Southern Pacific or Union Pacific, chances are a railroad was fighting for this freight traffic. The perishable traffic for the United States at that time was incredibly important to railroads. Railroads like Rock Island and Chicago Northwestern were battling for that traffic between.
I remember there was this PBS special, probably during the '90s, where they were talking about refrigerator run for lettuce, and showing how it would, take off from California on Southern Pacific, switch to Union Pacific, and in Omaha transfer to Chicago Northwestern, and then transfer to Conrail for the trip on to New York. That you have a salad in the Bronx that's was picked in Salinas less than a week ago, gone through 3 or 4 different railroads to get to you, and it was.
Love those trains.
Yeah,
it was the Salad Bowl Express.
That's right. Love those trains. That was,
and it was that show that got me into refrigerator car modeling. I always wanted to model the Salad Bowl Express, so.
Yeah,
that's what I've been kind of. When Ken said that he was bringing out some PFE reefers, I'm like, what?
Yeah, I remember we taped that on VHS, and I wore that tape thin, watching it over and over again.
Well, I must be wearing out that sector on my hard drive because I converted it to an MP4, and I've been watching it ever since. So.
Okay, nice.
Now, did they have to stop and put ice in these cars?
Yes.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, Chris Palomarez reminded me today of a photograph that I did. Here it comes, guys. This is a good shot. I spent a lot of time on this picture. Mike Berry was a member of the Midwest Valley Modelers, and he built the icing platform. Do you remember who made that icing platform, Mike?
Sunshine Models, maybe? Or was that the reefers that he was using?
It was Tichy. It was Tichy. That's who it was.
That's right.
It came in gray plastic, which was characteristic of Tichy models.
Yes.
And I formed and shaped all the figures and their bodies to match actually a photograph that was in this book specifically. I nailed it.
Oh, nice.
Including,
you made the tools too, didn't you?
I did.
You made the tools. I remember that.
Yeah.
I did. I wonder what the odds are. I saw the shot today and I was like, it was just memories for me. But I'll show you the model photograph right now on the screen. The guys are actually working. I created ice out of plexiglass, and they're loading Santa Fe reefers. If I remember right, that's one of Bobby Hall's, was it Hallmark models that they had? Or yes, the Hallmark Santa Fe Northern right there in this photograph. That was a brass locomotive. Plus, I also used InterMountain reefers with their hatches open when creating this photograph. It was photographic specific of that one moment in time.
Yeah.
And that ended up being the cover of a rail model journal a long time ago. Maybe I can dig that out and find that photograph too for old.
It's in the same issue as one of my auto rack articles because they ran back to back.
Okay. Yeah, Bob Schleicher, God love him.
Yes, good old Bob.
So Mike, you got 7 photographs here on the paper. Tell us about what you've been working on.
Well, the first couple weeks I was working on these Walters G85 flat cars. I couldn't find them when they first came out. They were always on. Yeah, I tried to pre-order them, and no matter how I tried, they were always sold out. So I found this guy over in O'Fallon, Illinois. He has a little shop called Hustle Dude Model Trains, his name is Frank, and he's Frank Childress, and he had a couple of these. So I weathered them, and then I put a couple trailers on from Kevin Nieheisel, those ones that he weathered, and took them outside to photograph those. And so that was the one side project. The main thing I've been working on still all these weeks is all these Camaros and Firebirds for this auto rack train. I've got 75 of them painted now, and I have about 50 of them with wheels and everything. So I'm working on the auto rack cars themselves too for this. It'll be 5 tri-levels with 15 cars each on them. So
wow.
Another little thing I'm working on for Greg Dixon. I'm refining one of his castings. It's a GMC B model. I don't know if you can see. I'm changing the roof on it. That's why it doesn't have a roof. But this is what it'll look like when it's done. And,
nice.
Hey, I remember seeing those.
Yeah, they were around a lot. I kind of had forgotten about them too. They weren't the most popular design, but I'm putting this different roof on that I had for Greg so he can cast it and make these available to people. So
I used to always see those rigs out in like a farm field where they would
right
pull up people hauling a flatbed trailer, out of one farm over to another one or something.
Yeah, they were always nice and rusty like this one too.
Exactly.
And they all sounded good because I had those good Detroit engines in them.
Yeah, right. Yep.
That's awesome. Guys, I miss you guys. I miss you guys sitting at the table with me. I miss going out and getting wings. Here's a photograph, just to remind you of the good old days. Here's a picture of us all at Frankie G's, right?
Yeah.
I know, right? I remember seeing that picture in the computer so I could run it on the show here because we were all it was a different time ago. That was that was before I quit drinking, so rock and roll. I know, right? James, what else you been working on? I know you've been working on your SD60s, is that right?
No, it's a GP60M Athearn blue box, or not blue box, excuse me, ready to run that I've updated, added LED lighting to, detailed. I keep hoping Athearn comes out with a Genesis version of the GP60M, but until that happens, I'll detail what I've got. But yeah, I'm working on. I've actually been working on a how-to video that should be coming out for the June What's Neat.
That's amazing.
And
yes,
we'll see it then. And Ken should be showing you right now some B-roll photos that I've taken of the locomotive that'll go into that film of demonstrating some of the lighting features on it.
That's right. The picture of those two engines side by side. That's cool. Now, Chris Bosworth on Facebook sent us something, James, and I'm going to let you talk about this after we review the video. And what this is a circular layout that's foldable, and it is designed to speed match locomotives where you can just walk away and come back and they'll be speed matched. So let me run the video real quick of what it is he's got. And James, tell us what it is we just saw after we see this.
Hey guys, my name's Chris. I didn't design this, but I built this speed matching board for HO scale locomotives. It has a script that runs on the computer that's hooked up through JMRI. It automatically runs the locomotive for 30 minutes, calculates the different speeds, and speed matches your locomotives to your max set speed, which I do 70 miles, scale miles per hour. This thing is 4 by 4 feet square. It has a Digitrax Zephyr, a Digitrax BDL 168, and the BDL does block detection, and that's how it figures out the time for everything. It also is portable. You can come over here. You can fold this thing in half, so it's 2 feet by 4 feet, and you can transport it to a friend's house or club or wherever you want to go. Pretty neat. Works very well. I'm going to be getting a Sprague Pi computer for it. That'll work a little better with the script. Some of the scripts don't like Windows computers, so just take it out one of those factors, so it's a lot easier. It has one strip of track and mill for a program track if you wanted to do anything with the Zephyr. There is no other system set up for this script. You have to use Digitrax products. But I just wanted to show you, and hopefully you can be on the show one day, show everybody about this, and can send scripts out to people so they can make this whole thing. I have making a list right now of all the material needed through all the products, the track, the wire, and all the hardware also.
So James, what was that? I mean, it looked amazing. It folded up. It's really cool. Thank you, Chris, for sending us the video of that. Explain to us specifically, because I know you know about this kind of stuff.
So what it is, it works between Digitrax and JMRI, and it uses block detection, and you feed into your JMRI system what the distance of your blocks are. It's measurable, and so it counts the number of times the locomotive passes a spot in a certain amount of time to get you your speed. And then you can program into JMRI just how fast you want this locomotive's top speed to go. And I think he said he liked to have his locomotives max out at about 70 miles per hour. And so JMRI will automatically go and set the top speed at 70 miles an hour. And then you can set what you want your other speed steps to be. And it'll automatically set that for every locomotive that you put on the track. And so what this promises is that you can set your locomotive on there. It may take a while for the program to actually go through the motions of speed matching it, but you can go off and do something else. You're not having to write it down and go through all the shenanigans of having to get your locomotive programmed. It'll take care of that for you. Which promises a lot less tediousness.
That's amazing. It's amazing.
I got to say, for us rail pro guys, that's done automatically. I just have to throw that in.
He's doing the old neener.
Yeah.
I know. You said that to me on the phone when I brought it up, too. James, last week on the last show, you showed us going out in the backyard with the TCS Wi-Fi throttle that can be used with the NCE system that we have on the table here. And so that got me the bright idea of taking this NCE system, the big cab the other night, and I had the antenna right here near the window so it would go past through the glass. And the garden tractor was parked in the way too. And you know what? That signal took me all the way down to the Garden Railroad. I was on the Garden Railroad looking up through my window, and I saw those InterMountain stack trains start moving past the glass. So rock and roll. This thing's got quite a range, just like what you showed us on that video. I was very impressed with that.
Oh, that's neat. And the one thing we were talking about on the phone with those NCE throttles, and I think TCS has captured this really well with theirs as well. But you just have this nice display of what you're working with,
yes,
and which is really handy for when you're programming your locomotives too. That you can see what buttons you're pressing and what you're doing, what exactly you're affecting.
It's that big screen.
Really nice
the
display.
screen is self-explanatory. You want to, like when Mike Budde selected a locomotive the other day, it asks you which engine do you want to select. I really like it when I turn my sound down, because I run the engines down here and I turn the sound down to sound level 2, so you can barely hear them. Because I don't want to run them for 6 hours with full-blown sound all the time. Sometimes, and I've run the layout 2 full nights this week, guys. I've actually oh my God, it was fun. Finally, I got to run my layout, and I haven't done that in weeks, and I don't know why.
Oh, no.
I haven't been working on the Garden Railroad at all. It's been cold and raining lately. It's going to go down to 34 tonight. Then this is April the 18th, so it's going to be a cold night tonight. But I can't wait to get out there either and start working on the Garden Railroad. The nice thing about the studio here is I'm diversified. One day I can make a video, the next day I can run trains inside, or go outside and work on the Garden Railroad. As you guys all well know, I am spoilt. I like it that way. I don't know anything else you guys want to talk about, Chris. I can't wait till this travel restrictions are lifted. I want to come out to Champaign, Illinois.
Well, not if I get out to St. Louis first, Ken.
Sounds good, man.
Yeah,
That does sound good.
tell you what, when we get back to normal, we're going to have a big old barbecue out on the bluff. That's what we got to do.
High five to that.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen, guys.
Got to be a little more coordinated to make that look good. I'm not.
Oh wait, let's try it again for the camera shot here.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
High five.
Hey, that works. Oh my gosh! Look, Campbell, you can look straight up and you see Chris. This is
Yeah.
at least we've
Yeah, I look
adapted.
down and go like, hey.
Hey, Campbell.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
We've been able to adapt the technology to at least produce a show to keep all of our model railroad friends out there. Give them something else to think about. I mean, readers' comments have been absolutely amazing. People have been so kind to us. And I know you guys miss Daniel, but we'll probably have him on the next time. And this is going to be the new normal for a while. And tonight we're using Skype. Last week we tried that Zoom, which seemed to have worked.
You know, though, I tell you, Ken, I was just thinking about this. That this, you know, it's a. Of course, we'd all rather be in your basement and looking at these beautiful models that you have on the table in person, because you know right now,
nice.
You know, you folks that are watching us on YouTube, we're seeing the models the exact same way we are. We are like we're not able to touch, well, except for Mike. I mean, right? Unless you're actually building the models that you're showing.
Can't put them down.
Yeah, but in other ways, I mean, when would we have the opportunity to talk to Jennifer Kirk?
Oh
Or
my God.
when would Chris Palomarez be able to be a regular part of the show? Or, you know, these sorts of things. So there are some nice opportunities here.
Yes, Jenny Kirk was amazing. She was so amazing. After that interview that I completed, which was actually yesterday, I did that at 4 o'clock in the morning. So these shows are very close together that we're recording here. Our experiences were absolutely the same. What she goes through over there in England, everything that they're going through in England currently in the UK, it's exactly what we're going through here. The stories were absolutely parallel.
Yep.
So rock and roll. All right, guys, you want to close this one out? What do you think?
Okay.
Let's do it.
So.
Yeah.
Show number 113 for April 18th. We want you all out there to be safe. I know we're all quarantined still at home.
Yep.
Let's all
Stay home, stay calm. Let's run some trains.
I know.
Stay safe.
Like James said, baby, let's go run some trains. Everybody wave bye-bye, and
All right.
we'll see you again
next time.
next time.
All right. So long.
All right.
Thank you.